listening to the Agent Survival Guide podcast, a podcast for today's insurance agents. Informing, educating, empowering, improving the way you do business in an industry that's anything but static. Before you begin your first attempt at AHIP certification, get the details on what to expect, info on discounts, how to study, and more. AHIP Test Tips and Tricks for Medicare Certification, written by Roxanne Anderson and updated for the 2024 annual enrollment period. Are you planning to take the AHIP Medicare training test for the first time? Well, you don't have to stress because we've put together a list of tips and tricks for passing AHIP that will help you and even more experienced agents. We'll be taking a close look at how to best prepare for the exam and how to set yourself up for success while taking it. Why is getting AHIP certified important? Well, in order to sell Medicare Advantage plans and Part D products, you must complete government-required Medicare and fraud, waste, and abuse training to be ready to sell. One common way agents satisfy this requirement is through AHIP training and certification. You can learn more about the test itself by listening to our episode, What is AHIP Certification and How Do I Get It? That is linked in the episode notes. As for test tips, we will start with a good rule to follow for any test. Put in the preparation. That means studying. We fully believe that the best resources for passing the AHIP final exam are the training modules and AHIP practice quizzes. Think back to when you were in school. For some of us, that's a little bit longer than others, but what was the best way to pass an exam back then? Here's a hint. The answer probably isn't putting your textbook under your pillow and hoping for the diffusion of knowledge while you slept the night before the test. It was studying the material from the textbook. Let's start by breaking down how to study for the AHIP exam because there are a few different strategies we can use. 1, review the training modules. Go through the AHIP training modules at least once. Review them for a second time or third time if they're new to you. Take your time going through the information. Don't rush to get through the modules. Let the details on each slide sink in, especially if it's your first time taking this exam. If you're recertifying, you may only be required to take parts 4 and 5, but we recommend taking all the parts to refresh your memory and get you ready for all the different questions you'll encounter on the final test. 2, complete the AHIP practice quizzes. Practice quizzes are placed throughout the training modules. Complete them and retake them as many times as you'd like. In the past, many of the questions from the AHIP practice quizzes have appeared on the AHIP final exam. So it's important that you're comfortable answering all of these questions and any potential variations. If you get a question wrong on one of these quizzes, try to find or work out the correct answer within the modules. Then write the question down with the answer, or at least jot down the topic giving you trouble and reference the modules as a resource. And this brings us very nicely to our next tip. 3, take as many notes as you need. While reviewing the modules or taking the practice quizzes, if you have trouble remembering something from a slide, make note of it and where to find the correct information. Take notes, lots of notes if you'd like. Then study them and keep them handy for the test because, spoiler alert, the AHIP test is an open book test. So you can actually refer to your notes and the modules themselves while taking the test. If you can, print a physical copy of the modules, or at least the modules you had more trouble with. But be warned, there are 5 different modules, and some modules do have more than 100 pages. If you're on your second or third attempt and have a lot of renewals and future income on the line, we think it may still be worth it to print them all. You can also download the modules and save them to your computer if you want to save on paper and ink. If you do print the modules, don't be afraid to highlight specific sections. Just don't go overboard and highlight everything. Our pro tip: take all of your notes in a Microsoft Word document if you can. While taking the test for the first time, quickly write down the questions or topics you're struggling with and why. If you don't pass the test on the first try, and it's okay, it happens, take a really good look at these questions and think about why your answers may have been wrong and what could be the right answer. Make note of where to find these answers in the modules. Study those parts of the modules a little harder before trying again, or try to take more notes to help you during the exam. Even if they're just to jot something down like, look at slide 25 for this answer. Let's move on to our next category of tips: timing. While the AHIP is an open book test, it is timed. Use the open book aspect to your advantage, but that's not a reason to avoid studying or fly through the test. It might sound a bit redundant after we just talked about how to study, but don't skip studying. There's a reason we say it often, because your success will improve with studying. Just because the test is open book, that doesn't mean that you can skip studying. Before you start the test, make sure to download the slides and save them to your computer or print them. Being familiar with the material you're tested on is always a good idea, especially for open book exams. Why? You don't want to spend all your time searching for answers. You just want to be able to find answers if you can't remember something or if you encounter a more difficult question. Sometimes simply reading over your notes won't be enough to make the contents stick. Consider implementing some of these study techniques. Involve your voice by reading your notes out loud to yourself. Involve movement. Try reading your notes out loud while pacing. Pare down by taking the top notes you're struggling with and fit them onto one typed page. Slow down. Rewrite your top bullet points by hand. And lastly, use visual aids. Draw pictures, charts, or diagrams on your notes, or the printed modules. Color code topics with highlighters or colorful sticky notes. Remember to watch your pace. Timing matters with AHIP. To complete the test, you must be able to get through 50 questions in 2 hours. Sounds easy enough, right? But remember, you can only spend about 2 to 2.5 minutes on each question, especially if you want time to review your answers afterwards or go back to any hard questions. Also keep in mind, if you have to retake the test, the questions are randomly selected, and you could get different ones each time. To make the best use of your time during the test, go through once and answer all the questions you confidently know the answers for. Make note of any questions you're unsure of. Then, after one pass, go back to the harder questions and utilize your notes. The only way an attempt will officially count as an attempt is if you hit the submit button or if the timer for the test runs out. Thankfully, you no longer have to worry about a refresh of your screen counting as an attempt. Our next section of tips should come as no surprise. Here at Ritter, we strive to be on the cutting edge of technology, and you can be too. Make technology your best friend. The fact that AHIP is timed makes it super important that you use your time and resources as efficiently as possible. You don't want to waste valuable seconds and minutes constantly flipping through pages or scrolling through the modules on your computer. Tech tip number 1, take the test in Google Chrome. Agents using Google Chrome may experience fewer issues with errors and submission than those using other web browsers. Tech tip number 2, utilize Control F to find specific keywords or phrases. Looking for a particular note you made that can help you answer a specific question? Did you take your notes in a Microsoft Word document? If so, then you don't have to scroll through all of your notes until something looks familiar. Instead, try clicking onto your Word document, then press the Control and F buttons on your keyboard at the same time to open the Find feature. Then type in a keyword or phrase and click Find. The tool should allow you to quickly go to the places in the document where that word or phrase is mentioned. When using the Find feature, don't search for phrases or full sentences if you can avoid doing so. You'll have better results entering one keyword if possible, or a really short phrase like annual enrollment period when using the Find feature. You can usually use the Control F Find feature while in a Word document, PowerPoint presentation, PDF, or even a web page. Keep in mind, this trick will not work for notes taken via the Notepad program on your computer. And if you're wondering about using it in the modules themselves, unfortunately, this trick no longer works for searching through the modules. It's just another reason to take really good, organized notes in the first place and take them in Microsoft Word. Tech tip number 3. Maximize or minimize your computer screens. One way you can save time is by making half of your computer screen show the AHIP exam and the other half show the modules you downloaded. This is known as split screening. You can do this by opening the internet window you'll be taking the exam in and then sizing it to fit half of your screen. Then, open the AHIP training modules you downloaded and saved and size them to fit the other half of your screen. In Windows, there is a shortcut to do this. Hover the mouse on the taskbar and right-click. A menu will appear, and you can select Show Windows Side by Side. This will automatically size the pages to be side by side on your screen. You can also use a keyboard shortcut, holding down the Windows key and either the left or right arrow key, depending on which side of the screen you'd like your current screen to split to. If the pages are too hard to read or this method just isn't working out, it may be easier to have each file take up the whole screen and just flip between them. If you have a second computer screen available, another thing you can do is hook up that second screen to have two of them side by side. On one screen, have the test open, and on the other, have the modules open. If you have a laptop and a desktop monitor, adding a second screen could be as easy as plugging in a cable to connect the screens, like a VGA to HDMI adapter or HDMI to HDMI, depending on the type of computer. Here's something that might not cross your mind. Tech tip number 4. Do not click out of the exam window. Your answers will not be saved if you exit out of the exam window. So be mindful of where you're clicking around when taking the real test. Let's talk now about cost. AHIP is not free, but agents can utilize carriers or FMOs' AHIP discounts or AHIP reimbursements. AHIP certification costs $175, but did you know that many carriers and even some FMOs offer an AHIP discount or AHIP reimbursement? This type of discount tends to be $50 off the cost of AHIP, bringing it down to $125. Reimbursements may vary from some money back to all of it. First up, let's talk how to get a discount or reimbursement on AHIP from carriers. To get a carrier's AHIP discount, you usually have to take the test via the carrier's agent portal or the carrier's designated AHIP link. The discount will not be applied if you take the exam directly through AHIP's site. You can learn more about the carrier's specific AHIP requirements, costs, discounts, and reimbursements in the Ritter Certification Center. To view all the information there, you must log in with your Ritter IM account. If you're not registered with Ritter's website, you'll have to do that first, and luckily, it is free to do that. Just check out the notes for the link to the Certification Center and how you can register with Ritter if you need more information. And second, let's look at FMO, AHIP reimbursements and discounts. Some carriers or FMOs may also offer an AHIP discount or reimbursement if you meet certain conditions. For instance, some carriers require you to submit and or issue so many apps by a certain date. And for the 2024 plan year, Ritter is offering an AHIP incentive as well. If you contract with select carriers, you could qualify for a $125 AHIP reimbursement. Now, there are a few stipulations for this reimbursement. Agents must be level 4 direct to Ritter, must be for new appointments, not contract renewals. Disbursement will only occur following carrier confirmation that the agent is ready to sell by 10/15/2023. Only a single $125 reimbursement will be distributed per agent per year. All payments will be dispersed to qualifying agents after 2/1/2024. Ritter is solely responsible for the distribution of the $125 reimbursement. Requirements and legalese aside, remember, whatever you do, just make sure you take the AHIP certification through a carrier or FMO you are going to have ongoing communication with. Sometimes the AHIP incentives can depend on previous business submitted. Our next category, and this is something I don't think a lot of people think of when they're giving tips on certification exams, but not everyone is great at test taking. And let's be honest, taking tests can be stressful. Luckily, we've got some steps to proactively ease your test anxiety and nerves. If you already suffer from test anxiety or will have butterflies in your stomach come game time, there are a few ways you can foster a calmer test-taking environment and ease your nerves. We recommend following these 5 tips for a better test-taking experience. Number 1, hunker down in a good location. Your home office, your living room, the local library, anywhere you can find some peace and quiet. Plug into at least one power outlet and maintain a stable internet connection for several hours. Number 2, minimize your exposure to disturbances. Put your cell phone on silent, silence your email notifications. Have the kids go to a friend's house or hire a babysitter to take them out for the afternoon. Close all other programs on your computer. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, all of those can wait. Have a good pair of headphones nearby, ready for you to wear if needed. Use comfortable, noise-canceling ones if possible. Number 3, set the mood. Light a candle or put another wax cube in your wax warmer. Slip into your favorite pair of jeans, sweats, or pajamas if you can still focus. Open your curtains or close them, whichever will make you happier. and take any other necessary steps to ensure you will be the most comfortable in your environment. Number 4, grab your favorite drink and a few snacks. Whether you like juice, coffee, soda, or water, Swiss rolls, apple slices, or a good hearty bagel, grab some foods and drinks and place them nearby. It's always important to stay hydrated, and you want to make sure you have the brain power for what's about to come next. Plus, this step could help you minimize distractions if you're somebody who might get a hunger pang if things get a little rough. Number 5, think positive. Are you a glass half empty or a glass half full type of person? We saved this one for last, but it could arguably be one of the most important tips we want to leave you with here today. Those who are the latter, those who are more optimistic, tend to better manage stress, and that in turn has a whole lot of other health benefits. Remember, we are rooting for you, and if you don't succeed the first time, try again. A failed AHIP test is not the end of the world. In fact, you can retake the test 2 more times. If you fail your extra attempts, you can re-enroll and purchase 3 more. It is important to note that many carriers will not accept 3 failures in a given year and could prohibit you from selling their products the next year. So you should aim to succeed by your 3rd attempt, though we believe you'll pass on your first. If you do need to take AHIP a 2nd or 3rd time, there's no specific amount of time you have to wait in between tests. If you only missed the mark by a few points, you could retake the test right away. However, we recommend spending time reviewing the questions and material you struggled with, especially if you took notes on them as you were taking the test, and studying before your next attempt. Many returning Medicare agents say AHIP is easy once you get the hang of it. Nobody's perfect, especially when learning something new. If you get more questions incorrect than you thought you would, or if you fail your first time taking the final AHIP exam, don't worry. Just study up on those areas a little bit more. You have 3 chances to pass the exam, and if you follow these tips and tricks and put in the effort you need to, you should pass and maybe even have at least one of those chances to spare. Have more questions? Listen to our FAQ episode about AHIP and browse the other resources in the episode notes. If you're still searching for answers, feel free to leave us a voicemail on the Agent Survival Guide podcast hotline at 717-562-7211 or email us at asgpodcast@ritterim.com. That's asgpodcast@ritterim.com. Good luck on your test preparation endeavors, and thank you for taking the time to listen. We will see you next episode. The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written by Roxanne Anderson. Script adaptation by Tina Lamoureux. Recording and production by me, Sarah Ruppel. Podcast design by Urban Rivera. Artwork by Vivian Zhao. Follow along with our show wherever you like to listen.